So I watched that movie Magazine Dreams. Now this movie wasn't on my most anticipated list, and this has nothing to do with Jonathan Majors. Like this is, I think, his first movie since everything that's going on with him, controversial wise, and being fired from the MCU and all that. So I'm not going to talk about all that. I'm going to talk about whether I think he was great in this movie or not. All the stuff going on in his personal life, and you know whether I think he deserves another chance or not doing movies again, being back in Hollywood. To me, that's a separate issue. When it comes to this movie, I can understand some people not wanting to watch this movie because of Jonathan Majors and your personal feeling towards what he did. I totally get that. But to me, that has nothing to do with whether I think this movie's good, whether I think he's good in this movie. I'm just talking about his performance in this movie as an actor. So, you know, don't if you have like you put any comments, don't put any comments about like stuff he's done because I'm not gonna. I'm that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about whether he was good in the movie acting wise, not him as a person. You know, like what he did was wrong, and I what he deserves to have another shot at coming back, doing movies again. Just this is to me, like I said, it's a separate issue, and just not something that has anything that has any relation to whether he was good in this movie. So I'm just going to talk about whether he was good in this movie as an actor. So when it comes to Magazine Dreams, I thought overall this was a solid good movie. I didn't love it though, and the positives I'll say about this movie is that I think Jonathan Majors as an actor is fantastic in this. This movie this movie like really does a great job of giving him a great performance where he's very like I did feel sympathy for his character. His character was very interesting, and he's just again this movie shows why he's one of the best actors. I'm not talking about him as a person, what he did acting wise. He's fantastic in this. And this movie does a great job of making you feel uncomfortable. Like this is a very dark, depressing movie, and that's gonna be one of the negatives for this movie with me is that this movie is so dark and depressing, and I felt sympathy for his character, and he does a great job of playing this character that's like you feel uncomfortable around. Like the whole plot of the movie is his character is a bodybuilder, and he's kind of awkward and not great, and he has some like violent. They should like they hit me when he's talking to his therapist. He has some problems when it comes to being some violent issues when it comes to his anger and stuff like that. And he does a great job of playing this character that I felt sympathy for, but also uncomfortable around. And I think he just gives a very fantastic performance in this where like even like you see most of him like smiling and stuff. You're just like yeah, it's this movie does a great job of making you feel uncomfortable around him. So I think like if I had to name the biggest pause about this movie is that I think the story's really interesting and I think he's just fantastic in this. Like this is a great performance. Like acting wise, I've never seen anything acting wise from Jonathan Majors where I thought he was bad. And this I would definitely put this up as one of his best performances and might even be his best performance. And like I said, the story I think is compelling, interesting, and overall it's a good movie. But the negatives I have with Magazine Dream is that I've seen this type of story done before. When I think of movies like The Wrestler, and it's just I like it does a good job with the story it's telling in this movie with Magazine Dreams, but I just feel like I've seen it done better with like movies like The Wrestler, where that movie had like ups and downs. You had hopeful moments in that movie, and that's kind of one of the negatives about this movie is that this movie's too dark for me personally. This Magazine Dreams is like this guy just continues to have bad luck in this movie, which is caused some of it by him, but this movie just like sticks on this tone in this movie where it just goes dark, and you don't have any moments in this movie where I felt like it had a moment of like a win for this person. It was just like bad throughout the movie. And even though I think it's good, this movie makes you feel uncomfortable in this movie at times. That's also why I don't find it the most rewatchable movie because it's so dark and depressing and uncomfortable at times. It's not really to me. This is not a movie I find to be rewatchable, and that's one of the important factors in movies that I love and movies that I think are great is that do they have that rewatchability? Because I don't mind dark movies, but this movie just sticks on that tone throughout the movie. There's just no moments where you feel like this guy gets a win. So it just, I think they just, I feel like they stuck on that tone throughout the whole entire movie, and it just you need a moment to like feel like this guy gets maybe a little bit win for a couple of minutes, and it just again the tone for me is like I think it was just too like depressing and dark. I was like, and that's one of the negatives that I don't find this movie to be the most rewatchable movie for me. Like it's good, it's solid. Jonathan Majors is fantastic in this. He is a very great performance where you feel invested in his character, you feel sympathy for him, and at the same time you feel uncomfortable around him. So acting wise, this movie's fantastic, and I think the story overall, I thought the story was interesting. There are all times, and this is another negative in this movie. There's all times in the movie though where I feel like his character does some crazy stuff they should go to jail for, and they kind of just like I feel like he get like you don't see really the consequences of some of the crazy stuff he does in this movie throughout the movie. Like there's some points in the movie I'm like he should go to jail for doing this. So that's one of the other kind of problems I have with the way the story was told in this movie is that it's an interesting story, but there's times in the movie I was like, he should go to jail for what he just did there. So that was one of the negatives I have with the movie. So overall, I think this is a good solid movie. Like I would recommend checking it out. It's not gonna end up being one of my favorite movies of the year, one of my personal list at the end of the year. But it's a movie I would recommend you check out once. Like it's a good, solid movie. It just didn't hit that great level for me personally, and it's just not a movie I find to be rewatchable after one watch. So that's my thoughts on Magazine Dreams. Until next time, movie fans.